Welcome to another episode of Pixplicity Talks. In this third episode in a series on Android Wear, we're going to be taking a look at Android Wear watch faces. If you'd instead like to get a more introductory talk, or you would like to understand more about the design principles that went into designing for Android Wear, take a look at one of the previous two videos first. In this talk, we're going to be focusing on Android Wear watch faces. Well, as you can see on Google Play, there are already tons of different kinds of watch faces. Analog watch faces and digital watch faces, and really, truly creative things that people have come up with. And if you're creative-minded and you have a great idea to make a really novel interface for Android Wear, then this might be the great place for you to do it. So what makes a really neat design for Android Wear? Well, there are a couple of different factors that you should bear in mind before you get started. First of all, make sure that your design works for both square and round watch faces. And for round watch faces, also those devices that have a bottom inset, such as the Moto 360 or the Alcatel watch. Also make sure that you're taking special consideration to design watch faces to take care of their ambient state. Some devices, such as this one, have a low color ambient state, so you also have a limited color space. There are also devices, again, such as this Samsung Gear Live, that have burn-in screen protection, so make sure that you also take consideration for that. I'll go into detail about that a little bit later on. Also accommodating for system UI. The overlay that displays from the Android Wear system UI itself, such as how many messages you have, or whether the device is currently unconnected to its host device, should be placed somewhere in the screen, and you can kind of move this around, but you have to find a nice place for your watch face where it would fit well. And finally, if you want to have a useful way for the user to be able to configure your watch face, say selecting colors or changing the style of the watch face, then maybe a good solution for you would not be to try to tuck that away on the watch itself, but instead use a companion app, and through that companion app, synchronize data that provides the watch face with its configuration, with its color and the styles that you want to provide. So the first steps in creating your Android Wear watch face is actually around the APK. Remember that you're actually deploying a Wear APK onto the watch. And that means that your project will actually contain two modules. One module for the Wear application, and where all of the code of your actual watch face is contained, and another module which contains your mobile application, which is basically a wrapper that is used to install your application onto the host device, and through the Android Wear companion app, it then installs that through Bluetooth LE onto the watch face that is connected to it. Let's take a look at what kind of dependencies and other things you need to set up before you can actually get an Android Wear watch face working. Now, Android Studio will take care of this pretty much automatically if you use the Android Wear wizard. But let's take a look at how this actually works in case you want to do it by hand, or if you want to have a better understanding of how this actually works under the hood. So we first need to make sure that the handheld app's build.gradle file points to the wearable app module, and we can use the wear app project keywords and reference the wearable module in the handheld apps module. Secondly, we need to ensure that the Wear's manifest includes a uses feature tag to indicate that the Wear module uses the watch hardware feature. Now there are two permissions that you need to register in your wearable's manifest, and that is provide background and the wake lock permission. Now remember, whatever permissions you register in your Android wearable, you also need to register in your mobile host application's manifest as well. This is of course logical because if your application is going to be installed, there is no interface for the user to approve or deny the installation of that wearable application at the point that it's being synchronized onto your device. So the only point where the user actually has the opportunity to accept or reject that is when he's actually installing the host application. Now, here comes the question, what kind of watch face do you want to create? There are basically two different choices. You can either go for the Canvas watch face service engine, or you can go for the OpenGL version, which is called the GLES2 watch face service engine. Now, the second one, this OpenGL version, provides you an opportunity. It actually creates a service holder for you, and it provides you the opportunity to use the GL APIs. But in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Canvas version, because a Canvas is a fantastic way to already use two-dimensional Canvas operations, and it's hardware accelerated already, so it's really a fantastic tool to do any sort of analog or digital watch face that you'll probably want to draw. And we can just simply implement this by using the canvas watch face service. So simply extend that, and all you need to do here is actually implement the OnCreate engine. And this is where you then provide your own implementation of the canvas watch face service.engine. And here there are several methods that we can override. Let's take a look at a couple of them. We have the OnCreate, which is a great place for your watch face to initialize itself and create various maybe fields or whatever you want that needs to be instantiated once and used, for instance, in the onDraw method later. Then we have the onPropertiesChange to extract information about the device features, and it currently only contains the properties for burn-in protection and low-bit ambient. Then there's the onTick method, and this allows you to handle the different time events, for instance, the changing of the minute, or when the host device's time or time zone has changed. On ambient mode changed is a callback to basically inform you that the device has entered or exited ambient mode. And similarly, on visibility changed lets your watch face know that either a notification has come up or, for instance, an Android Wear application has been brought to the foreground or being taken out of the foreground and the visibility has returned. And then finally, the onDraw method is, of course, where the magic of your watch face really happens. In the case of this canvas watch face service, you now have an actual canvas upon which you can draw, and from here you can do whatever you like. I'd like to focus for just a second on registering the watch face service. Now this looks like a lot of code, but let's just break it down. The service itself is registered like it always is in an Android manifest, but there are a couple of things that we need to pay attention to. Here you see the allow embedded is true. You have to make sure that this is enabled to true because the system has to be able to access your service. Similarly, the task affinity is not set, which means you no longer have a task that is restricted to your own application. And finally, here we provide a permission that's allowing explicitly the bind wallpaper to access this service. There are a couple of other things going on here. We have the metadata, which provides a XML resource that defines what our wallpaper is actually going to look like. And if we go ahead and take a look at what that actually looks like really quickly, we'll see that it's simply an XML tag that says, hey, this is a wallpaper, and it only has the Android schema for defining what that is. And then finally, we have these two other meta tags that provide a drawable resource for both the square and the round watch face for a preview, basically what it looks like when the user is making a selection which watch face he wants to choose. Lastly, not to forget the actual intent filter. And this is, of course, an intent filter to register your service as a watch face wallpaper so that it launches with the correct action and associated category to actually invoke as a service. So cool, at this point we have an canvas watch face service engine that we can fill in now how we want to. And now in the following steps I'm going to fill it in with a couple of probably recommended things that you want to put in your watch face service engine, filling in the OnCreate and the onDraw and a couple of other things. Let's take a look. What I've done here is I've actually used the set watch face style to configure the system UI. So which elements of the system UI are influenced by my watch face? Things that you can change are things like how far the notifications peek into the screen and whether they should show at all in ambient mode, or the position and in the way in which the UI shows the system indicators, things like unread message count or whether the device is currently connected to the host device. So we can set this through a watch face style, and using this builder helper class, we can actually construct that and finally build the style and pass that style into our engine. And that pretty much takes care of everything for us. So with this short little bit of code, you can actually set the peak mode into short and change the background visibility into an interruptive state. OnPropertiesChange is a great place for your application, for your watch face, to take properties into account. For instance, if the device that is running on uses low-bit ambient mode, then you should be switching off things like anti-aliasing and bitmap filtering, because these particular screens use less bits for its color, and it's an easy win for power consumption to be drawing less pixels on the screen. In devices that require burn-in protection, on those devices the system will automatically take care of shifting around the display so that it doesn't actually burn in the pixels on the screen. But you as a developer also have to take care not to be drawing large areas of white pixels, or to be drawing somewhat in the range of 10 pixels around the device edge to make sure that the screen protection is actually working correctly. So what we see here is in my OnPropertiesChanged, I am reading out into a field the state of the low-bit ambient and the burn-in screen protection. Similarly, on ambient mode change give your application an actual callback to when ambient mode is enabled and disabled. So it actually gives you the opportunity to respond to changes between ambient mode and interactive mode. So for instance, what you can do is you can actually use different paints or enable and disable anti-aliasing on your existing paints to change that state, and then actually calling an invalidation to invoke another onDraw pass. And a really obvious use case of the onTick method is to actually invoke a draw pass. So when the minute changes, of course you want your minute hand to advance 1 minute, and the easy way to do that is simply call invalidate so you get another onDraw pass. Now, of course, onDraw is the place where your creative freedom really goes free. I mean, this is really where you're going to be drawing your analog watch or your digital watch or whichever creative thing that you have actually thought of. And you can actually put the canvas to great use here, doing rotations and transformations. In the case, for instance, of an analog watch face, if you're going to be drawing the different ticks along the side of the watch or the rotations of the hour and the minute hand, this canvas rotation really makes it as easy as Android Pie. And that's all the time we have on this particular episode on Android Wear for watch faces. I hope to see you in the next video about Android Wear for apps actually developing Android Wear applications. Really hardcore stuff. Until then, toodaloo!